came to me because you want to keep this quiet until you get it all wrapped up the way that you want it. And then you can make a big show of how you solved it all.
Well, why should that bother you? You're the one who taught me that's how it's done.
I taught you don't sacrifice your men. Benkowski's dead. No one's talking about him anymore. And as for that other one, you can get him paroled on reasonable doubt or whatever other trick you have up your sleeve. Or send his ass back to the penitentiary. Because sadly, it makes no difference to anybody.
That was a clip from the new drama, The Divide, about the fight to exonerate a death row inmate. But the drama over the death penalty and wrongful convictions is hardly confined to scripted television. Just this week, a headline in the Washington Post announced that a federal review of dozens of convictions came to a grinding halt after most of them were found to include flawed forensic evidence from an FBI lab. That flawed evidence may have led to the convictions of hundreds of potentially innocent people. After reviewing 160 of the 2,600 questioned convictions, the FBI stopped the process, alarmed at the errors in the vast majority of cases. The Justice Department ordered the review to be restarted this month. Already, defendants in 23 cases, including 14 death penalty cases, have been notified that the FBI examiners, quote, exceeded the limits of science when they linked hair samples to crime scene evidence. All of this is part of the very troubling real-life backdrop for WeTV's The Divide. Joining me now is creator and executive producer of The Divide, as well as one of the stars of ABC's Scandal, Tony Goldwyn. It's great to see you. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Alex. So great to be here.
So how did you first get interested in the issue of wrongful convictions and exoneration?
Yeah, I made a movie that was based on a real Innocence Project case. It was called Conviction, with Hilary Swank and Sam Rockwell. And that was a story about a man who'd been convicted of murder and spent 18.5 years in prison for a murder he didn't commit. And his sister had become an attorney from being completely uneducated to try and find a way to get him out. So that story led me into the, endlessly fascinating stories of the cases that the Innocence Project works on. And, like what you just mentioned, this thing that's just been revealed with the FBI, the Innocence Project is also a big mandate of theirs is judicial reform. Yeah. And because in our justice system, there's so many cracks and so many ways that things go wrong that we take for granted, and so I realize that I have a function to serve, a job to do as a storyteller, to get these stories out here. And my partner, Richard LaGravenese, who wrote The Divide, and we co-created it, really wanted to, the stories are so fabulous and dramatic, but it also is a way to shine a light on our system and have people go, really, that happens?
Yeah. And the injustices splinter along familiar lines, which is to say race and class. One of the interesting things that you do in the show is it's two white men who have been convicted perhaps unfairly for a crime they perhaps did not commit. Usually in the broad sort of the broad majority of cases, it's African Americans who find themselves wrongfully convicted or on the wrong side of the law without proper legal representation.
Exactly. That actually was Barry Scheck's idea.
Yeah.
Barry Scheck, who's the co-founder with Peter Neufeld of the Innocence Project. Yeah. Richard and I, I'm close to Barry, and I said, check out this idea. We have this idea of this show, and he said, it's fantastic. He said, but you know what you should do? You should make the prosecutor black and the murdered family black and the two inmates white. And he said, just turn it on its head. And Richard and I realized that in that way, then we could get into whole discussions about race and racial politics in America and just turn expectations on their head. Because one of the things as storytellers, we don't ever want to do is have easy good guys and bad guys. And be able to say, oh, see that, even though 99 point whatever the percentage is, most of the time it is people of color. And getting the raw end of the deal. But in our world, we mix that all up constantly.
Well, and I think that's important too, because it becomes people question sort of what is relevant to them if it's not just the other always.
Exactly.
You are, I mentioned this in the intro, but you play President Grant on Scandal. Here you are working on an issue that is politically incredibly relevant. We just had a segment before this about criminal justice reform, which is being taken up in a bipartisan fashion. I mean, you are engaged in the world through the lens of a storyteller and an actor and a producer. I wonder what you have sort of gleaned from all of this work. I mean, in terms of telling the story of America in the 21st century, are there things that you find particularly be hopeful or particularly despondent in the
Oh,
work that
no,
you do?
I'm very hopeful. I mean, you know, these dueling, you know, one of the things that, you know, watching your show right before this, the maddening paralysis in Washington, you know, is one thing that can be very, very dispiriting. And looking at the wars, multiple wars around the world that we're struggling with, all the things that, you know, what's happening at the border and all of this, the negative things that happen. And yet, you know, the power of the human spirit to charge to break through that, to affect real, meaningful, lasting change, and our impulse to just keep at it and keep doing it. And, you know, the American spirit to do that is that thing that we're all so proud of. As, you know, we, as Americans, we feel it, we do it. That's what we're proud of. So, you know, when I see, you know, people like Barry Scheck and Peter Neufeld, and, you know, as you and I were just discussing, you know, off camera, the people that dedicate their lives to social justice and to making the world a better place for other people and people in our government and in our justice system, and lawyers, you know, good prosecutors who want to get it right, and police officers and FBI agents, you know, they're good, positive actors, and those people I sort of feel like are prevail in the end. I'm positive about it.
Yeah, I think the existence of the Innocence Project, just that in and of itself, is a very positive sign for society.
Let's look at quickly the example of the FBI problem. Okay, so in one sense you can go, well, wait, all these cases are, and yes, there are hundreds of cases that are called into question, but the fact is, yesterday, the FBI kind of stopped this investigation because it probably made a lot of people uncomfortable. Yeah. But yesterday, the Innocence Project went to, you know, Jeffrey Holder's office, to the, you know, the Attorney General's office, and the Attorney General's office said,
we're going to start it up again.
You're going to reopen this again. And so now it's shined a light on it. So to me, that's a hugely positive step, as opposed to the political machine kind of, you know, or the institution. Let's just, you know, block this.
Indeed. I mean, the fact that the DOJ has said, oh, no, 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 we are going to find out what went wrong and we are going to correct those wrongs is a hugely important step for us. It is also awesome that there is a television drama that deals with this directly, gets people talking about it. Actor, producer, director, generally very good person on planet Earth, Tony Goldwyn, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks. That was so great to be here.